I am getting so much better at learning to turn the recording part on. So thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Our Hub Captains meeting on July. Fortunately, it got cooler and I'm not up here baking, and everybody should be inside because it's not sunny. So we're gonna see if anybody is interested in taking minutes. Raise your hand or speak up now. Someday Gabby's not going to be on and you'll all be fighting over who gets to take minutes. So Gabrielle said she can do it today. She can't. She's having audio problems, and so people watch the chat in case she has a question. She said she'll put any questions there. So, and then we'll do the when we do around the room, we'll do the introductions. Oh, you know, although let me go back. I am looking for Cody, who is our first guest speaker, and I'm not seeing him. Cody, are you there? And Lynn, Ty, are you there? No. So you know what? Let's do introductions at the beginning, because we kind of got this down now, and that gives us a little time to see if our two guest speakers are going to join us. So we do this generally doing Northwest, Northeast, Central West, Central East, you know, going that way. So if you are in the Northwest sector, introduce your name and your hub.
Hi, I'm Carl Leon. I'm with CLACS and with the Broadview Hubs.
Dave Wilma from Seattle ACS and Northwest Sector.
Cheryl, you have to unmute. Okay.
I thought I was going to be polite. Yes, I'm Cheryl Dyer and I'm at Loyal Heights in Ballard. Thank you.
Anybody else? I can only see one screen at a time, so I don't know who else is sitting on the other screen. All right, who's in the Northeast sector here tonight?
Sandy Motzer from Lake City and also a member of ACS.
Louise Luthi from Laurelhurst.
Ann Forrest from Victory Heights.
Central West sector.
Go ahead, Bill.
This is Bill Fay with Queen Anne Hub and ACS and miquahubs.org.
This is Frank. I'm Central West, the Magnolia Hubs, ACS, and that's it.
And Steve Hall in Belltown.
Margaret Sanders in Eastlake.
Yep. Hey, Jack Herndon, I didn't catch you back up on the Northwest sector. Did I miss that?
Oh, I missed that. I was distracted. Yeah, Jack Herndon with the Finney Hub.
Okay. No worries. I get confused where people are, so I was waiting for you in Central West and then going, wait a minute, I'm messed up. Anybody else in Central West tonight? We'll go to Central East.
That would be me, Diane, from Judkins Park.
Yep. I think you're the only one I saw. Central Core, I don't think I saw anybody from there. And then Southwest, Cindy Barker, Morgan Junction Hub.
Erica Hurnett, Highland Park Emergency Hub.
And the last sector is Southeast sector.
Linda Norland, Lakewood Seward Park Hub.
Susan Sanders, Beacon Hill.
Andy Peck, Maple Valley.
Yeah, really. The way southeast.
Way southeast.
I didn't hear from Kayla, and...
Yeah, my space bar didn't work for some reason, but I'm here, Highland Park.
And I saw someone else come in late. Jim?
I'm Jim Cantu. Visiting, I'm with El Centro de la Raza on Beacon Hill.
Fantastic. I thought you were a different Jim, so I was like, oh, we passed you by. Sorry about that. Well, welcome. Thank you for dropping in today. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and kill off the guest speakers by having Matt go out of order and still hope Cody shows up. So Matt wanted to talk about a couple of things. I'm just going to let him have the floor.
All right, sounds good. And did you talk to Cody recently about getting on?
Well, I talked to him when I sent in the meeting notice, which was about 2 weeks ago. And then Monday, when I sent the agenda out, I sent it to him and said, hey, you know, still planning on having you here. And then I didn't get a confirmation back. So today
I know that he is transitioning to someone else. So that position he's in that kind of serves in our preparedness role traditionally lasts about 2 years, a 2-year rotation. And he's got a new guy, Andy, taking over for him very soon. So
yeah, but he should have been in because I think they transition in September.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, he knew, it seems. So maybe he'll hop on.
Well, and let's just, well, I guess we'll kill the time and then we'll talk about what to do about Cody if he doesn't show up. So
Sounds
go ahead,
good.
Matt.
I have plenty to talk about. So this may seem like rambling because I have kind of a number of topics to hit on, and I'll try to make it all make sense. So I think just kind of some administrative things first I would mention is at OEM, we have a new communications coordinator. Her name is Kate Hutton. So she's on my team and reports to me. She comes to us from the City of Los Angeles Emergency Management, where she has worked in different capacities for about the last 8 years, kind of starting off at the mayor's office there, but then working as a public information officer for emergency management there, and then also in kind of some operational roles, especially overseeing their alert and warning. So this is Debbie Getz's old position, but we've kind of shifted it to be a more communications focused. We've always wanted and needed a PIO in our office, but we have never had one. And so we have just decided to shift the focus of that position. So she'll take on a lot more of a communications role. And I think this will give us just a lot more kind of strategy in how we do all of our communications, especially as we move to kind of creating a lot more digital content, especially in the COVID world. So that's kind of a staff change to know about that's important. Other things that I would like to mention, we've basically been on hiatus since the beginning of COVID in terms of actually doing public education programming for the most part. So, you know, we activated our EOC the first week in March, and then with other things that have happened, even as COVID has died down, we've been pretty busy, and COVID has kind of stopped us from doing public education in the way we traditionally have. We've been doing a lot of work to soon shift to being able to provide a lot more online instruction, webinar-based preparedness programming. So some of you may know Melanie Cole, who's one of our training and outreach specialists, and she primarily oversees our public education volunteers that are doing that preparedness education. And we've just been working to get everyone up to speed on updated messaging that incorporates some COVID-specific information and just the technology, because we're going to be primarily using Microsoft Teams, various forms of Microsoft Teams, to deliver training. So the other staff announcement is Melanie is actually leaving our team. So I'll probably take over that role of really kind of overseeing that group of volunteers while we figure that vacancy out. So we're going to start by just doing some more kind of pre-scheduled webinars, and then slowly, hopefully sometime during August, we can shift into opening things back up to taking public requests. Just all of those things are going to be online. Originally, we said through September. I can't imagine that we're going to do any in-person programming this year. I really am not planning to do any in-person programming. So we're just going to work on providing a lot more online content and making ourselves available a lot more for webinar presentations. So a couple of things related to that. One, Melanie's position will be vacant. We are planning for the fact that we might be down staff people. I mean, it takes us a long time to bring people on board anyway, but given the current budget constraints and the freeze on hiring, we have to put in a request for a waiver to be able to hire for that position. And we don't know whether we'll get that or not. So, you know, it's possible that we just can't hire for that position. We don't know that yet. We're hoping we can. We've put in the request, but we don't know. So we may be shorthanded. And that kind of speaks to my next point, that we're really looking moving forward at really prioritizing the audiences that we are reaching with preparedness programming. And this is something that we're going to, in the near future, call out very clearly on our website. Part of this is due to capacity, and part of it is just due to the people that are in most need of our messaging who we are not reaching. So we traditionally do a lot of SNAP programs and a lot of general preparedness programs for neighborhoods and groups of people who have already heard our messaging and know it, and they're just kind of always wanting us to come back and say it again. We've done a lot of work to make a lot of online content, a lot of presenter guides, a lot of PowerPoints and videos accessible, that people that have some understanding of the concepts we talk about and are educated people with resources, they should be able to take that and really run with it. And we really want to empower people to do that moving forward. And we want to work a lot more closely with hubs and how we do that, how we can get hub folks that are out there doing preparedness outreach the tools they need to do that better, so we can kind of focus on those groups that aren't reaching out to us for information, and we have to get to them to find them. So that's kind of expanding our community safety ambassador programming and our outreach to limited English populations, outreach to BIPOC community in general, seniors, people with disabilities, people that we know are going to be more impacted when a large disaster happens, and the people that aren't coming to us for information proactively. So that's something we will be doing. I mean, yeah.
So if you, if the hubs are able to take up some of that capacity in the neighborhoods we're already established in, you know, because what happens to us is little pockets within our neighborhoods show up, right? And so in West Seattle, maybe the hubs would do more in covering West Seattle in the general SNAP building and stuff. So does that mean that you will help us do more better outreach specifically about the hubs in the areas that you're prioritizing? Quid pro quo here.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're always talking about hubs. So yeah, I think that's a conversation we need to have. Like, is there more we can do than just, you know, always including what a hub is? I think as we, you know, I know we're still figuring out the most recent bucket of funding for new hubs and whether that's going to be there or not and what that looks like in the future. I think that's definitely something for us to push as we're out there, and that we know we're in areas that don't necessarily have that capacity, how we can help build that capacity. We're all for that. So
yeah, and it's not necessarily build a hub, it's build a capacity in a sustained way. Okay, super. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So that's kind of priority. Cindy and I had a good conversation a couple of weeks ago. The conversation was good. The chimichanga I got was not that good. She warned me and I didn't listen. I got the chimichanga anyway, so still kicking myself. But even simple things like, you know, the gas meter we have, the fire extinguisher training equipment that we have, things like that. I am more than open to make that open to people if we can just figure out the logistics of getting it to people, and if we can find ways to make sure that people are comfortable with how to use that. I think we're probably a ways off from that just because of not doing things in person. I don't think anyone's going to be doing that for a while, but just thinking ahead. So that's some stuff kind of on shifting priorities, shifting staff, things like that. Other things to mention, if people didn't watch our webinar at the beginning of July on heat and smoke preparedness, I would recommend you do that. I think it did get shared out in a hub communication, but I can send it separately as well. It's on our YouTube channel. It's easy to find.
Can you put it in the chat and then it can go in the minutes?
Yeah, I'll do that when I'm done talking, I can. But there is some nuanced messaging this year, and we spent a lot of time on that, and there's been a lot of planning at the city going on around this, because typically with extreme heat, one of our primary messages is pointing people to city-owned facilities that have air conditioning and that are open. So libraries, community centers. A big part of the message, because most people don't have air conditioning, is here are places you can go to keep cool. Problem during COVID, those places aren't open, so that's not really an option. And in our conversations with public health, where we are at with COVID right now, the risk from COVID outweighs the risk from heat. So bringing people into a congregate space for cooling really is not an option, because the risk from COVID is greater than the risk of not doing that and having people stay at home when we have an extreme heat event. Similarly for smoke. So, We did work in 2019 to install enhanced air filtering at 3 city facilities. So that was the Chinatown ID Community Center, Rainier Beach Community Center, and the Armory at Seattle Center, with the same idea that we may need some congregate spaces if we have poor air quality due to wildfire smoke. But we're in a similar situation where it is very unlikely we would be able to do that over the summer with the current COVID state of things. If we were to move into like a phase 3, phase 4, then we may actually open congregate spaces for heat, but likely not smoke. But the way things are going, and with the governor's press conference today, I don't really see us, in the month of August suddenly moving into phase 3, phase 4. So I would recommend you check that out, because there is some nuanced messaging, and it's much more really pushing people to know how to create clean air spaces in their home and knowing how to stay cool, because they're not necessarily going to be able to go to these public spaces. So the other thing with that is COVID is already requiring people to stay at home. So especially people that are more vulnerable and are actually following the guidance and, going out as infrequently as possible and staying home so they're limiting their exposure. They're already at home and may need assistance. Heat and smoke, similarly, are really going to lead to the same things. In an extreme heat event, if there's not a cool space to go to, like a mall or a community center, then you're probably going to need to stay inside. In a wildfire smoke event that's causing poor air quality, there's no clean air spaces, you're probably going to have to stay at home. So there's just more chance that certain populations are going to be isolated. And when we look at events like the heat wave in Chicago in 1995, over 700 heat-related fatalities, and most of those were senior citizens that did not have close family and were very isolated and did not have anyone checking in on them. So I'm gonna see if I should be able to share my screen quick, right?
Oh, hang on.
Maybe? Oh, that's all right. I'll send the link. But basically we developed kind of a card that serves the purpose of offering help to neighbors during COVID. And it's really, as COVID cases increase again, and as we have these other types of events that might kind of make people have to stay at home more, it's just important that people are reaching out to neighbors to offer help. So we basically have this simple card that has some guidance on the back of how to safely help your neighbors, like making sure you're wearing a mask, making sure that you're maintaining 6 feet of social distancing if you have to interact with them. And then it just provides a card to say, hey, this is who I am. I could offer to, there's some things you can check off. I could get groceries for you. I could just do a check-in call. I could, run other errands for you. Here's my contact information.
I said it so you can share now. I just had to flip a switch. So if you want to share it, you can go ahead and do that.
Flipper.
And then while you're doing that, Jim from El Centro, could you put in your chat your last name so we can get that right for the minutes? And then I've got Matt, there's a question teed up from, I lost it already. I think it was Sandy for you.
All right, sounds good. So can everyone see this?
Yep.
So this is on our website. In the prepare section, we have this safely helping neighbors during COVID. And basically the card looks like this. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory. We did a lot of review with our Department of Neighborhoods, Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. It's basically just something that you can leave at a neighbor's door, telling them who you are, offering assistance, as well as giving some of those city resources that exist. And then just some guidance on how you safely do that. Like I mentioned, so making sure you're wearing a face covering, leave items at doorsteps, don't really physically interact if you don't have to, use money transfer apps instead of cash if you can, communicate via phone, text, etc. No, I can't. And we have that in, I don't have all of them posted. By next week, I'll have all of them posted, but we'll have it in 11 languages in addition to English. So my ask would be help distributing print versions of these. So I have 5,000 English prints that I got on Friday. These are 5 by 7.5. So you can just kind of slide it in the crack of a door, slide it under a door, stick it in a mailbox. I am happy to get those to people. If people are willing to help get them out to stores in their neighborhood, places of business in their neighborhood where people can pick them up. Ideally, I would not be dropping them off at 20 different places, but you know, if you guys could help come up with a system where I'm, you know, dropping 1,000 in 5 different places in the city or 4 different places, and people can help get those out to others. And we'll be printing more in the future, so then it would just be me looking for guidance on, do people still have opportunities to get them out, and do they want more? And I'm happy to print more. We had 2,000 Spanish printed. We got those on Friday to Via Comunitaria in South Park. So Jim, if there's, you know, interest with El Centro, you can get them out. We're happy to get more, or we can follow up with Via and see if they're going to use all 2,000 or not.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna, yeah.
I generally know that, you know, I can pick them up and distribute them for West Seattle, and can usually do them for the Northeast sector. So if by the end of the meeting, if anybody could do it for a sector, that would at least, you know, cut down on the, you know, how many people does he have to contact with? So if you could put it in the chat, that would be great. And then,
Can I add something, Cindy?
Yeah.
We've got the masks from King County. So we contacted King County. They were giving out masks, and we said, hey, we're not going to distribute these now, but we'll throw them in our hubs. Can we have a few for the future? And they gave us some. It's like 40 masks per hub or something like that. So I could grab a bunch of the cards from Matt and put it with those masks. The masks go in the hub, the cards go out to your neighbors now. So that's a way to distribute.
Okay, we can talk more.
Let me know what works best. If someone can pick up,
Okay.
Otherwise Monday I can also drive around and drop, you know, do 4 or 5 drop-offs. So
Okay.
And then with our ones in other languages, like I said, we got some to Via that does some preparedness outreach in Spanish for us. And then our CSAs, we're probably going to do a model like we did when they went out and distributed masks to ethnic businesses and community-based organizations. We just have a long list of organizations, and our CSAs will help us go out and deliver those in-language ones to organizations and businesses they have connections with.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I need to physically stop by the EOC sometime Saturday morning. If anybody in the north end, if you want to lay out a pile of them for me to pick up, I can bring them to the north end, like for Ann or for anybody else that needs them in the north end.
All right, sounds good. I'm not there tomorrow, but I'll shoot Chris an email. He was bundling them up into 50, so I'll have him put like 1,000 in a box.
Okay, have them set them in the radio room so I can get them. I don't have access to the OEM office.
Sounds good.
And Susan Sanders says in chat that she'd be happy to distribute in Southeast too.
Awesome.
Because
So for anybody in the north end that wants to tap into that supply, I'll have them by Saturday afternoon sometime available, and we'll just coordinate on how to do pickups.
Okay, great. What else you got? Oh, Matt, there was a question from Sandy.
Yes, I had a question about the heat messaging.
Yeah.
Are you talking to people about the dangers of cold water swimming? There are drownings all the time, and it seems like the perfect way to cool down. But if you're not used to the cold water out here, I'm from the East Coast. So the first time I jumped in Lake Sammamish, had I not had a safety belt on, I would have not come up. And I can swim really well. So is that part of your messaging about heat?
It's in some of our messaging. So, you know, a lot of times we're pointing people to the public health site on heat-related illness for kind of the more detailed messaging, and it does include some of that. And fire pushes out a lot of stuff on kind of the water safety side of things during heat. So it's in there. I would say when we kind of have like our top 4 or 5 bullet points that we're trying to push out through social media and things like that, it's probably not in those. It's more focused on, you know, older folks that are staying at home and aren't doing the simple things like wearing cool clothing and staying hydrated and putting a wet washcloth on themselves to stay cool and things like that. Those are kind of the top level things, but it is in there.
Thank you.
And then Suzanne Sanders had a question about, you know, we're all around our personal relationships and neighborhoods, and she's wondering where you're going to prioritize questioning for sure South and Central Seattle, but do you have other places? Can you describe that a little more?
I think, yeah, I mean, part of it will be geography and part of it is populations. So yes, South and Central, I would say, where we definitely see a lot less requests coming in, but also just populations that we know are going to be more impacted. So low income housing, for example, I mean, we've done things with SHA for a long time, but SHA, for example, has a ton of buildings and a ton of residents. So to really reach them effectively, we really need to prioritize that group. So part of it's location, but part of it's populations. I mean, we're always going to keep focusing on our limited English populations with our CSA program, but there's some geography to that too. I mean, we know that so much of our outreach to limited English groups is through community-based organizations, many of them which reside kind of in the South End. But we know there are a lot of populations in the North End too. And we know that we're not necessarily reaching everyone when we're just going through community-based organizations. So really looking at how we do that better. I think our CSA program helps do that now, but how do we kind of expand that effort? And then youth, especially like high school and even like undergraduate, you know, we want to do a better job of kind of introducing even the field of emergency management to populations, not only preparedness messaging, because we don't have a very diverse field, and part of it is people just don't know what it is. You know, we post jobs and we just don't see very diverse applicants. So part of our effort is how do we just introduce the field to people and help them understand that it's very interdisciplinary and introduce people to it and maybe get them going in that direction because they suddenly know it's something of interest. And then I think the other thing is it's probably different messaging for these populations. So when we look at like disparate impacts on populations from disasters, it really comes in recovery. You know, if I focus, we know that communities of color, people who speak English as a second language, households that are low income, people with disabilities, they are all disproportionately impacted by disasters. If I go tell them to have 2 weeks of water and food, that is not necessarily going to help them do better after a disaster. The reason that they're not doing well after a disaster is because, for example, they're living in buildings that are more likely to collapse or have total damage from an earthquake. So having more supplies is not really going to help them there. Recovery resources are often directed to populations that are the loudest and can get their priorities taken care of. Federal funding in terms of recovery is very focused on property owners, homeowners. So if you're not a homeowner, you're not necessarily getting that funding. So we're really looking at, you know, how do we do outreach engagement in a way that can help in recovery and help us understand what community issues are now, so we don't go to recover very quickly while not listening to what people have been already saying they need for decades, if that makes sense. So, you know, it's focusing on certain populations and knowing that the messaging is not just our typical preparedness messaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's more engagement and planning, which is something that I think we have not always done a good job at. We're good at going out and telling people what they need to do, but we're not good at bringing the people to the table and asking them what we need to be doing.
Okay, any other questions? Let's see, I'm looking here. 2 more messages. I don't think there's any more questions from Matt? I'm going to tag off his thing. I told you guys after the deep dive last time that I'm working on the document that tells you how to do better outreach and specific tools. And Deborah Widmer has it right now for the how to do outreach to access and functional needs and seniors. So it's got 3 parts to it, you know, where your meeting's at, what is your event, and how can you get that put in place for as diverse a community. And then how do you accommodate the cultural, the language, and the access and functional needs? to prepare to have a good event and at the event. So I had to take a break today because I'm just like on overload on getting all that combined, and I need someone from the city, you know, in a professional context to read it from me. So that won't be out for at least another week. So.
And that just reminds me of our, we recruited and we onboarded a lot of almost 15 new volunteers in the winter. And then that was terrible timing because as we had things scheduled for them to get up and running, then COVID happened literally a week later. In terms of reaching populations we don't traditionally reach, our strategy was really, we need to do more community events. And that's reaching everyone. It's recognizing that not everyone is going to email us and say, I want you to come out to my house and talk about preparedness. I mean, that's a small portion of people in the city. So we just need to get out there in front of as many people as possible. And a lot of that is community events. I mean, we do 20 to 30 in a year, and a lot of those are our community safety ambassadors, but obviously there's hundreds of community events. Sounded like a great strategy. Now there's no community events. So back to the drawing board. We will keep you posted, or we will revisit that strategy, 6 months from now.
Okay, let me shoot up the agenda so we can look at who's not going to be here, because I don't see Lynn and I don't see.
Hey.
I heard a voice. What was that? Oops.
Accidentally not on mute.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Can you guys see the agenda now? Can you see the agenda?
It's trying.
Oh,
There
yes.
we go.
Okay. So Cody Shriver, we'll just keep watching for him. If he does not call in, which I got this big red flag when he didn't, when I realized I didn't get a yes, I'm still on. I'm going to set up a meeting for him, and I will try and make it in the evening, and whatever he can do, I'm just going to say it's going to be a hub captain meeting, and whoever can come to listen to this dialogue, we need to get this dialogue before we lose all the, what tiny amounts of ground we had made with Cody for a new person to step in. I mean, it just irritates the crap out of me that it took 2 years to actually have a conversation with the fire department, and now they're leaving, not our fault, not their fault, but that's just how it is. So be prepared. It won't be next week because I'm out of town next week, but somewhere in the first part of August, we need to understand what the plan is for September 22nd through 25th or September 26th and what we're doing. I'm kind of with Matt. At this point, I'm feeling like there's almost nothing that's really in person, certainly not inside. But if there was something where we could do where it was like the fire department drove by and you stood at your hub and waved and they went, okay, I physically have visually locked it in my brain. That's where that hub is. Maybe that's what we would have had to do. I cannot see anybody. So is there any comments? Unmute yourself and just ask. Okay, the next introduction that was going to happen was really just an introduction. John Murphy, who has joined us, and I'll have him introduce himself later with the latecomers, introduced me to a gentleman named Lynn Tai. He's with a group called The Mission Continues. And the easiest analogy to that is they are like Team Rubicon. They're a veterans-based organization who has found a mission for veterans in their community. But unlike Team Rubicon, who is around disaster focused, where they mobilize, they go in, they help, and then they're out when that cleanup work or whatever the immediate task at hand is done. The Mission Continues is nationwide, and it puts veterans to work within the communities as community partners in resilience and neighborhood growth. And so they have selected a couple of projects in Southeast Seattle and in the International District. They're looking for some neighborhoods to engage in next year. But the introduction I wanted him to make was they have about 400 veterans who are interested in this community role and mission. And to me, it's just like the Public Health Reserve Corps. They live in our communities. These are all City of Seattle people. They live in our communities. The minute a disaster happens, they would be an incredibly valuable resource for us. And if they could be told what a hub is and where to go to get to your nearest hub until they're deployed to something else, if possible, then that's what we would want that connection to be. So I'm going to continue with him. If there is any of you who are interested in, I am looking for partner focals on all these little projects I got going on. It's worked really good working with Anne in the P-patch thing and Jack on the water thing, because partnerships help me share the work, but also it gives continuity. So if any of you are particularly interested in working on this relationship with the veterans group, let me know or ask questions now. Okay, I still can't see anybody. I'm not hearing anything. So I'm going to take the agenda down because I can just read the topics, but you can see we've got a few things. And then when we get to around the room, I totally understand that nobody's particularly got anything new. So the around the room, be thinking about what's bugging you the most. What do you want us to focus on? Like just all those unnamed, undiscussable things that we normally might be able to chit chat with if we were in a normal social situation. So that's kind of the focus I'm thinking of for around the room today. Okay, so getting our way around status. Oops, I forgot I got to share my screen again. First thing was Kate's the new camping hacks. And who knew we wouldn't have any community events to give these away? So somebody tell me when you can see it again.
Looks good.
Okay.
You can see it.
Thanks. So this, she did the same thing that our first ones did. We clearly want to have some masks in there, whether it's for volcanoes or COVID, so that it's ready. And then she's got a couple of more bleach and goggles. This one, if you read it, just cracked me up. And then the backside, of course, is the actual instructions. So she is unable to join us today, and I know I don't want to wordsmith this. So is there any general comments about this?
I had a comment about that sanitizing water in a 2-liter bottle just by leaving it in the sun. I would like to see where that's been proven effective, because I'm not sure the UV light would get through that plastic.
So she's a student at the UW in urban studies, and so I assume she tapped some of her colleagues. But would you? And that was what she said. Email directly to her and let her know that we want to make sure if we're going to put our name on this, this has got some validity to it.
And it's got to be a clear bottle.
Well, yeah, even that, but there's so many things of that sort that block UV. So, yeah, I'd like to see if that's actually just something that somebody thought up, or if it's something that's actually been tested and proven to be effective.
Right. And what I'm saying is, I'm not going to answer that.
No, I don't expect you to. You
Yeah.
said you wanted some comment on the stuff, and that's my comment.
Yeah, and then when you are talking with her, Carl said clear, not clean. I mean, so it was like that might be an assumption on her part that was implied. I heard another voice.
Yeah, solar disinfection, SODIS, is on the CDC's website.
Really? Okay.
This one, SODIS, okay. But Jack, do what you want, do what you communicate with her to get to where you're good. Anybody else have anything? Now, here was my joke, this one, waterproof phone case, we're going boating. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought about making a phone case. How do I do that? And it was use a waterproof bag. And I went, oh yeah, I could have figured that out. Sandwich bag, or tie a condom off. And I went, so I told her, I said, I'm going to tell Ron to go buy some condoms because that'll make his eyes bug out of his. So they were really interesting. They were kind of entertaining. I hadn't
Cindy,
heard of the black pepper one either.
Cindy, what was the lady's name to put this together, this camping hack?
Her name is Katie Idzarad, is the best way I can say it. In the
It's
email,
Zurich.
what is it?
It's Zurich.
Zurich. Okay. I will mangle it for the rest of my life. Idzorek.
Thank you.
In the email I sent you, I believe I forwarded it, and her email should be right in there.
Okay.
Okay, and if I can think of it quick enough, I'll put it in the chat too. So that was all I was going to cover on this. If she'd been able to join today, we could have had a little longer discussion, and she could have taken you notes directly.
I'm sorry, what was that black pepper one?
Oh, it's right there. I got it. Okay.
I just stopped sharing. Hang on, I'll read it to you. Black pepper. Ground black pepper can be used to stop bleeding wounds quickly for small to medium-sized cuts. Black pepper is naturally antibiotic, and it also helps blood to coagulate quickly and stop bleeding. Pour a generous amount on the wound and apply pressure. And then caveat, serious cuts may still require the attention of a physician.
Yeah, I would I would be highly skeptical of that one.
I did look it up. Apparently it's true. My concern is nobody knows what a minor cut is versus a severe one. And
Well,
so requiring
and it's like,
sutures, they'd be dumping stuff in there that they shouldn't be.
Well, and I would look to Ann, but we teach a lot of bleeding control, and our message is pressure, pressure, pressure. So
Right.
I don't know why you would go to pepper before pressure.
Because they're camping hacks. I mean, they're
Well, hopefully you have your arms to put pressure before you have pepper. I don't know.
And are you?
I think Stop the Bleed would agree with that you use pressure. I just can't imagine doing the pepper. It seems like it would hurt. And if you're going to put pressure anyhow, just put pressure.
Just put pressure, unless you need flavor with your pressure. But,
unless you have a tourniquet.
All right.
The limb.
Yeah, and I mean, in general, you shouldn't be introducing foreign things to a cut in terms of cleanliness. So.
All right. I've noted it. Sandy, I'll talk with you about how we, or Ann maybe, just to say, can you just go to Stop the Bleed? So, which wouldn't be a bad one. I mean, it wasn't in our first set, so if we can distill it down to the quick camping style Stop the Bleed instructions, we might want to have that prepared for if we're going to say, take that out and put in pressure. Okay. Next on the agenda was COVID and the Hub Captain Network. I haven't heard anything from the city after they did the masks distribution, and then we didn't ever hear anything about distributing to ethnic businesses. And then the next one we got was kid masks, and there was a couple people who got directly engaged with the city around making kid masks, and I haven't heard anything back from the city on that. So anybody got anything else to share on that? I don't know if Lee had anything from Homer Harris Hub.
So this is Erica in Highland Park. I have some friends that are part of a very large, a friend who started and other friends who are part of a very large Seattle mask making group. And I connected them with it, but it was the email that came had so little information. They're like, well, what are they looking for? It's like, this is what I got. I gave her the contact, gave them their contact information, said, ask if you're interested in this, just go directly to them. But it was a challenge because there was so little information that came in the original email and it was so vague.
Okay, that's a good point. I think she expects me to type more and send it out to the hub captains, but when I was just like, I'm just a pass through here, I will ask her to put together better emails with what's the ask and who are we contacting.
Yeah.
So if we can leverage our community resources, let's do it directly to them. We don't need to be middlemen.
just on the ethnic business thing, we did our CSAs did help, I think, get out about 2,000 masks to ethnic businesses, and I don't know even what year it is anymore. That was May, maybe. And I think one of our Spanish-speaking CSAs is about to do some more next week because we still have a few that didn't get out Spanish-speaking.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything on COVID? Okay. The next thing I had was on the committees, Margaret and the fundraising group.
My only comment is that Whittier Heights agreed to be the fiscal agent for us for this fundraising effort, and Anne and Linda Norland have been working on the actual ask, and I think Anne has some material to share. I'm not sure. Where are you? There she is.
It looks like it's shared on the screen, Ann. I see it. But you're on mute, maybe?
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at is the draft for the GoFundMe page. What they suggest is about 400 words. What we found really attractive was a couple sentences and then a picture and a couple more sentences and a picture. So I'm just going to leave that up there and let you guys read, and let me know when you're ready for me to scroll down.
For some reason, I am not seeing anything from the screen share.
Erica, I'm not sure. Is everybody else seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
getting some thumbs up. Erica, I'm not sure what's going on.
That's weird. Okay.
We can send, this
yeah,
will
I
get
can-
sent out afterwards anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. And again. And the last couple sentences. Can we get a thumbs up when you guys are done reading?
Would you go back to the very top after everybody's done reading down here?
Sure. I think everybody's gotten through it. Seeing lots of thumbs up. So we'll go to the very top. What was your question, Carl?
I'm wondering if if there should be any language as to how recognized our hub program is. And I know Cindy's spoken internationally even with regard to this, and we've had visitors from all over the place coming to see what we're doing. So I'm just wondering if we could lend more credibility, if you will, to this by providing some of the, just, tidbits of the recognition that the hub program is created within Seattle and the community.
Carl, I think that's a great idea.
I'll find the date that we got the King County Award and and put what that was called and put that in, and we can find a place to put that. That was a
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. We'll work that in. That's a good idea. So any other kind of general comments?
May I, Anne?
Sure.
I like what's stated here, and I have talked to Hugh Kelso just informally about this. And I asked if he could just set it up so that hub captains could donate directly to the fund and bypass paying, what is it, 2.9 or whatever. It's just a way of making the money a bit farther. And he said,
Okay.
but
All
it's
right,
not, it's not for me to do. I mean, it's the committee.
Yeah. Okay. We'll figure out how to kind of work around the little cut that GoFundMe takes, and spread that information out as well. So any other comments about kind of the gist of the campaign?
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
First, thanks a lot for doing this. This is great. I'm a consultant, and so one of the things I might suggest is to make this more you-oriented, because this is all about us, but somehow direct the wording more outward. Like it's a place where you can go in an emergency rather than neighbors go there. Just a suggestion.
I can see that. Yeah. Make it a little bit more
make it about them.
In their self-interest. Yeah. Okay. We'll see if we can figure out a way to word it a little bit differently. That's a good idea.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, thanks.
And that can tie back to what I was saying about what the hubs, how much good they do. And the whole purpose of it is to support the community.
Right. Okay, cool. All right.
You have a schedule you want to talk about?
A little bit. Two more things real quick. If anybody else has comments about the text or whatever, please raise your hand or speak up. But two things we need to do. We still need a title. That's kind of a big deal. It has to be interesting enough to let people kind of jump to the spot and be interested. And then also a little blurb, and it has to be really short, something that we would put as folks involved in the hubs, something we would put on social media as ourselves, hey, everybody I know, could you please donate to this GoFundMe campaign? So we need that little blurb. It's coming, but it's kind of hard to sum up everything we are talking about in 2 or 3 sentences. But so those are the two things that need to be done still, is the title and then a little blurb that we can put on our social media. And then we do have a letter, a digital letter that we can all send to, this is the one you send to family and friends and all those people on your Christmas card list or whatever, and just say, hey, I'm raising money for something I'm really interested in, and if you can, throw a couple dollars my way. So that one's ready to go. The other thing Cindy was talking about was the schedule. We were kind of thinking about September because it's disaster preparedness month, but September feels like it's going to be very difficult because of COVID and the start of school. So we're thinking early October. Thoughts about, whether or not that's a good time to go live with this?
I have 2 questions. One, this is Frank. I'm not really familiar with GoFundMe, but so I can see people who are not familiar with GoFundMe. Who will control the money and how? First observation. And second one is times are really tight for a lot of people now. So I think the comment about including you in it is really perhaps even more appropriate than normal, given the way things are going. But if there's a blurb as, will this be handled by the leaders of the Seattle Emergency Hubs Committee, and just how do the economics work in times of tight money?
Yeah, sorry. We had talked about that and kind of worked through all those issues in the little 6-person committee, and I forgot we hadn't shared it with you guys. So Hugh Kelso runs the Whittier Heights 501c3 and has agreed to be kind of our fiscal sponsor. So the money goes straight into their account under our name. And Margaret or Hugh, if you guys want to speak up and explain this better, feel free.
Well, I think what he's asking about, that's the easy part. It's like, what are we spending it on? And the original proposal, Frank, was it's the administrative costs that benefit all the hubs as part of the network stuff we do. So it's paying for the Zoom account, it's paying for the website domains, it's paying for when we do a major printing project like those posters, where it is distributed to all the hubs.
And also translation services, which for the hub brochure, which is we had to set aside a fair amount of money. It comes out to, to be a little more than I think the costs have been in the past, partly because we have Zoom and we have this translation happening. But yeah, we put out a budget. You should have seen it last time we met, but we can make sure it goes out again.
Maybe when we send out the final version, and we make a package for, because
Yeah.
not everybody gets in the meetings and not everybody
Right.
gets the minutes, and
Right.
they have a nice little set. Okay.
Yeah. If y'all could read our minds, that would be great. But since,
Yeah.
since none of us are very good at that, we'll communicate better. So any other questions about the GoFundMe?
I think you ought to actually run our top 2 kind of titles in front of everybody really quick for just like a
okay
sanity check.
Yeah, let me
We'll just say them out loud.
okay. Let's see. We have Every Seattle Community Deserves a Hub. Help Seattle Prepare One Hub at a Time. And then the last one we're considering is Free Cindy. We actually do have a third one I just thought of. I don't know if anybody will like it, but Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs - Building a More Resilient City. It's a little wordy.
So do the first 2 again.
Help Seattle Prepare One Hub at a Time. Every Seattle Community Deserves a Hub.
So hold your fingers up, 1 or 2.
I like 3, but if you drop the Seattle emergency and just say hubs, building a more resilient community.
Me too.
Oh, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to make
I'd
it
go with
complicated.
3 with that, with that change to it.
Okay.
Yeah, likewise.
3 again.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Hubs, Building a More Resilient City. I can put them up.
I'd say Seattle hubs, because if it's GoFundMe, at least people go, where am I in the world?
Yeah.
I would make a suggestion on something similar to 2, like every neighborhood deserves a hub, because as we were talking before, people are incredibly, there's a lot of self-interest right now in the city.
Yeah.
And every neighborhood deserves a hub. It's like, my neighborhood deserves a hub. Oh, if I give money to this. So I think a lot of the people who are involved in the design, structure, planning of these, we are people who are very focused on community and the larger cohort. But we're asking money from people who are not necessarily as holistically thinking as we are. And so you really have to appeal to unfortunately, you have to appeal to their self-interest. So I would give a push towards every neighborhood deserves a hub, or even, you can't really say help your neighborhood get a hub, or let's get a hub in every neighborhood.
Yeah, we had a problem with overpromising.
Yeah,
because,
we can't overpromise.
But every neighborhood deserves a hub. That's a teaser. But yeah, when you're going on to GoFundMe, the person the marketing fellow that talked earlier, it's really like the way, the harsh reality is if we had, say, we need a hub for this kid in this neighborhood, you're going to get 10 times as much, and you show a picture of a kid, you're going to get 10 times as much as if you say, have this abstract idea of how you'll help everybody. It's just kind of how GoFundMe works. And I've raised $60,000 or $70,000 on GoFundMe for my projects, and I had to do a little bit. I never got gratuitous about it, but there was a little bit, some of our videos had to be really tailored to close-up shots of, the more holistic you get, the more abstract, you lose it for this model of fundraising. That's just my 2 cents.
That's good.
Yeah. Tell you what, why don't I throw the 3 of them out on a doodle poll? We'll see which one wins. Will that work? I can't see thumbs up to, I don't know, can anybody else?
And I agree with Cindy, I think said add Seattle, make sure that every Seattle neighborhood, Seattle hubs, because GoFundMe is a worldwide web presence.
Okay.
Or building more resilient,
Building a more resilient Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
Do those and then put a, tailor
Other.
it, pick your favorite and tailor it, Well, if you do
Okay.
other, then we'll start all over again.
Right.
You might get some of these.
Okay. And
more
this,
crisping.
I don't know that this is going to be the difference between us raising $5,000 and $25,000. This isn't life or death kind of stuff. So
Nice
I just think we need to, yeah.
Well, let me ask
so-
another question. We
Sure,
set our
Carl.
goal relatively low. Should we set our goal higher?
We can certainly go way above our goal. That was the minimum we needed, pretty much.
Yeah, but if we
With
ask for
some
5,000,
padding, that $5,500 for 2 years, that's got a significant amount of padding in it too.
One of our
Just 'cause
problems,
we're
Carl,
thinking bigger.
Yeah, one of our problems was we talked about that, like, why don't we ask for 20,000? Well, we don't know what we'd spend it on. And then we have to spin ourselves into, well, now we got this money, what are we going to do? So we kind of wanted to put this out as a test because this covers what we need. And if it's successful, go for round 2 with, more specifics around, like, we're going to take all our hub brochures and get them all translated, into multiple languages. And that's going to be a lot of money.
Right.
I have a question about timing.
Mm-hmm.
I heard maybe October. We really don't know what October is going to look like. So I think that we need to keep our eyes on what's happening in the community because we don't want to come across as being totally tone deaf. If everything is really going to hell in a handbasket, then I think to bring this out in October when we could wait a few months to things stabilize. And maybe October will be fine, but maybe it won't.
Cindy's cringing because waiting a few months means I pay for it again.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would.
Oh, poor baby.
Okay, I will take that back.
I would like to suggest actually moving it forward because if we wait till October, this is going to be a pretty intense election year. And I think if we're in October, people are just going to be either really wrapped up in the election or completely turned off of social media to avoid it.
Could
So
we push it out earlier? I mean, I agree
Yeah.
that the September timeframe is horrible for Christmas, but what if we got this out the second week of August?
yeah, I'm suggesting. Yeah, I would like to suggest that we think late August, early September.
No,
before people-
early August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's the school thing,
Yeah.
everybody with a kid is like
Yeah.
not going to be wanting to do anything with money. They're going to be.
Yeah, I would. I worry that everybody's going to be into 2 camps in October. They're either like so wrapped up in the election, or they're like, I'm not going online at all because I'm trying to avoid it.
Okay. We can be ready by August. It's, there's not a whole lot left to do. There's a little bit of, bank account kind of stuff, but, okay, let's shoot for, I don't know, the first week of August, second week of August. Let me put some stuff down and I'll email it out to everybody, but
It's a forcing function. I'll get it off your plate faster.
yeah, exactly. Okay. Any other questions or comments about GoFundMe? The other piece of this, which I haven't quite figured out yet, but I'm hoping it's just logistically difficult but not impossible, is the text to give. You type in 4 numbers and that automatically sends $20 into our account or whatever. I don't even know how it works, but very, very kid friendly, young person friendly. Yeah, They work really well. I don't know how we're going to reach that audience, but we'll figure out a way, I guess.
John Murphy? So could you help Ann with the little blurb that we send out, the one that you were just exactly talking about that says, I mean, not in the meeting here, but offline, that where it's like, we're trying to appeal to the young millennials, the ones who might still have money, you know, here, text to this number, and just, you know, where they do that in it's a natural motion and then they move on to their next thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. And sure, let's Cindy has my email. We can talk over Google Hangouts or have a virtual meeting, or we can meet for coffee at CMP or someplace like that.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to do that. Next week I got some time. This weekend I got a lot of time.
Okay.
But yeah, and also I think we should do this sooner than later, because what would be good is to set some, we should send it out to some case studies. So pitch it, you know.
Like trial run kind of thing?
Yeah, think of people, you know, we'll get our elevator speech.
Okay.
And then we'll send those out to people who we know that are in the, really, I think we should hit the Microsoft cohort, well, not the Amazon cohort, and the people in the 30 to 40-year-old range.
I'm going to let you two work it offline.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Work that out.
Okay.
All right. And then somebody had a question about Nextdoor. I think this kind of thing is okay on Nextdoor, is not, as long as it's not excessively promoted. As a lead on Nextdoor, I see that stuff come by all the time. So I think we'll be able to bring it up on Nextdoor. You just can't post every single day asking for money.
And then there's one comment in chat, Ann, about, will people think the money buys them a hub? So.
Yeah.
Okay. And Matt had to drop off, so.
Okay.
Which is too bad, because the next topic is Hub in a Box, which is city related. And I heard him allude to it a little bit. So on May 22nd, Ann and I and some city department people met with Sarah Morningstar, who's the assistant director for Department of Neighborhoods, to talk about where are we with the Hub in the Box program. You know, you're supposed to run it. I got everything lined up. We know what to buy, blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of poking at, you know, it's going to be a really tight budget year. What else could we use this for? And we had the discussion of, we think it's allocated for equipment. That's what the legislation says. But we talked about the outreach we need to do to get the word out to the diverse areas we were intending when we started the Hub in the Box program. So they were supposed to go away and come back with a, hey, if we could use a little bit of the money to enhance the communication and outreach for this program, this is what we'd suggest to do. And I heard nothing until this week. So I sent an email and said, well, you know, a month and a half ago we talked and you were supposed to do something. And I got back, yeah, you know, I thought about you this morning. Yeah, right. And we
After
still
I
have
read
not,
your email.
yeah, we still have not, yeah, I thought about you when I saw your yeah. And we still have not talked to the city budget office about what the priorities are going to be. So I read that as a somewhat stronger veiled threat than the first veiled threat we got, which is we may pull this money off the table. You know, now I know $35,000 is not going to solve the problem that we got going on. So she just said, so you're just in a holding pattern for a while. So we're in a holding pattern. Frank, I know you've got some people looking at it. So this is very frustrating, but we are in unusual circumstances and I cannot push any further without, you know, to me, thinking I'm going to push it off the table and it would be just fine, you people, gone. The good news is that Ann was paying attention and the Neighborhood Matching Fund program has restarted. Ann, were you going to be able to talk about that? I think we're going to send something out, or you already did.
Yeah, real quick. So the deadline is September 15th. This will be their only round in 2020 and the competition will be fierce. Community participation, it used to be you counted their hours at $20 an hour. It's now $30 an hour. Definitely looking for diversity. Couldn't get them to say that they're only going to approve grants down in like low income neighborhoods or something like that. So it's going on, but one round only. Deadline is September 15th. You have to have some kind of connection with the 501c3. I don't know if they're just, I don't know enough about that to say anymore. I'll find out and get that question answered before I send this out. Used to be able to get a fiscal sponsor, and then you didn't have to be a 501c3.
I can't believe that they would restrict it to that.
Change that, yeah.
That sounds illegal.
Maybe my source was just didn't understand the difference. I think that's it.
Okay, so that is a strong message, and we need to highlight that in the minutes too, please, Gabrielle, that it's turned back on. You've got till September 15th. If you had any desire in doing a hub in a box, you might as well get this application in first, because if you don't get it and then we get hub in a box money, you can come back and do that instead. But that way, in case our hub in a box money disappears, at least you haven't lost this opportunity.
And I think they have, from what I saw on the website, they've turned off the small sparks and they've turned on something else, which goes from 0 to 15,000 per grant. And the lead time for that is 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's about the same as small sparks was.
Okay, well, okay. So, I mean, like early August, it needs to be in.
No, it had to, the round closes September 15th.
Yeah, oh, maybe that's it. God,
Right.
that's
the
a big
round
difference.
closes
Okay.
September 15th, but that you needed to have 6 weeks before you were going to spend any money. So you wouldn't be spending money until mid-November.
Right.
October. So anyway, don't miss that opportunity, folks.
Cindy, this is Erica.
Uh-huh.
So I was missing this until the very end. The reason why you were highlighting this is because the people who need to apply for a hub in a box should use this. So that includes me and Highland Park. So none of us at Highland Park have been part of the hubs when they hub in the box applications went through. So is it possible to see an example of a previous hub in a box, just so we know what to ask for and what the pricing and what sort of stuff like that?
Yeah, I will go make sure, I'll make sure the Google Drive is updated with the supplies list.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there was one in there that detailed the box and all the supplies. There was I don't know if I think it was a spreadsheet.
Yep. And Diane at Judkins has just finished doing this exact same process. She's not using hub in a box. She is applying through this small and simple grants process that Ann was just talking about. That's what you'll want to do, because hub in a box may not happen at all. And so if we, Diane has sent me her grant, and I can share that, because they have, free form fields like, how will you do community outreach, and she gives you some ideas of what they're doing in their community.
And if anybody's out there thinking about writing one of these grants and wants an experienced set of eyes to look at it, please raise your hand. Multiple hub captains have done this before and can give you some guidance. And just a second set of eyes.
And I'm writing this so I don't forget to do it. So you'll have both a spreadsheet with the supplies. I think, like Jack said, that's already there. But I'll make sure that Diane's most current application is in there. Their form might change a little bit, but the questions are almost always the same. The next topic I've got is Good Samaritan Law progress, only because it's good news. Eileen Cody has said, yes, she will take that up and move it. And so I have sent emails to the director of the Washington Emergency Management Division to say, heads up, this is moving out. We're asking for a blanket, if a disaster is declared, blanket Good Samaritan application to all people who respond to a disaster, and it's not touching your emergency management programs already in place. So he's aware of it, and he said, great, let me know when it's moving forward. And then I sent it to the emergency manager and I wish Matt was still on for this too, emergency manager in Snohomish, and he said, great, let me know when she has it lined up, and I'll send lobbyists to help. And so did John Sue, who was our guest speaker around with the Washington WaSafe building inspectors now that he's retired from the city. He said the same thing. You let me know and I'll send lobbyists to help as well.
Cindy, is there going to be, are you proposing any expansion of the Good Samaritan law? Because Good Samaritan in and of itself is a very thinly defined category of protection.
Yes, and I do not want to do that whole conversation here, Carl. I'll talk to you afterwards. I've sent it out and what the wording is, and so we'll do that afterwards. But basically, it just makes it umbrella, and I gave her several other states to look at who have already dealt with this problem.
Okay, so in a word, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I'm careful answering you because there's 3 other parts of Good Samaritan, and I'm never sure, which one you're exactly digging at.
We're good. I just, just getting an umbrella, everybody gets Good Samaritan protection isn't really giving them much, but it sounds like you are in fact pursuing a broader set of protection for volunteers, and that was my question.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is I wanted to touch base with the work we're doing with Chad. Thanks to Jack for prepping up some of the information, and we had some really good conversations with Chad. And I've lost track of, Jack, did we send anything out to people yet?
No, it was, I think that it was going to review with you and Ann,
Yep.
and then it needed to, what we wrote up needed to go in front of Chad to make sure that we didn't step outside of the things the city would actually do, and then it was supposed to go out.
Yep. So we got some new ideas that came out of discussing with Chad. So we're in the process of, I think Ann and Jack were working on, the word I heard was polishing it to get it ready to go. And we actually stumbled onto a guy who sent us a poster of what they use in other states to help clarify how debris removal. Remember when we were listening with Chad and we did the deep dive and how complicated the debris was? Well, this was the outcome of you guys giving me input about go get something that makes it simpler. We actually have some visual aids that will help on that. So that's
that was a great find.
Yep. And one more thing I've got, Jack and Ann, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope.
You can tell
Nothing
where
for
you
me.
sit on my screen. We're supposed to have a session with the, in the last deep dive, we talked about having a deep dive where we get to practice with interpreters. And that was in preparation for a September meeting with the P patches, which were supposed to be in person because we were going to do interpretive sessions for the gardeners who have English as a second language and would prefer to get a briefing, a Hub 101 in their own language. We have August 1st as a cutoff date just because of the run up and getting translations and materials put out. And I'm betting at this point, we're not going to be doing it. So we'll still do the deep dive interpretation thing because that actually is kind of a fun little no fault practice session. Nobody's going to laugh at us when we make fools of ourselves. But so we'll invite everybody to attend that when we do that at the deep dive. I have 3 requests now, so get your I want to volunteer hands up. One is we've been approached to help with the 2021 cargo bike disaster relief trials. And there's usually a group of cargo bike enthusiasts who do this race or competition or route or promo event where they use cargo bikes to move things around just like it's a real disaster. And we've done a couple of them. And 1 year, the hubs were, 2 years, hubs were part of their stopping. And at Morgan, they stopped and they loaded up cartons of eggs to take on to the next station. So it's really fun. I would like, I can be involved, but I would like someone to be the point person on that for the hubs because it's, we don't know where the route is. It could be anywhere in the city. You're just kind of like paying attention and getting us engaged at the right time when they're ready to talk about how would the hubs participate. So is there anybody who would like to volunteer? Anybody got a particular interest in cargo bikes? Susan Sanders coughed.
Who's your
I'm muting.
And for information, ACS plans to support that with communications, and we are happy to tie that in with the hubs if you want.
Okay. That might be a way to do it.
Hey, Cindy, is that Colin or Aaron that runs that?
You know, it was a new name. I didn't see, I don't know who it was this time. I'll forward you that message and see if you recognize anybody. We have a ham in ACS who's the guy who originally got us pulled into it. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. He's the guy in Madison Park. Can't think of him right now, so. Oh, I know it. It's terrible. No. Anyway, okay, so that's one. I'll send that to John, just so he knows.
Bob Edmiston?
Yes, that's it. But backup position is we can use ACS to be our starter conduit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll have a lot of time to do that because I've already got enough stuff. And
no, I just want to know if you know any of the people.
Yeah. Okay. I know the guy who builds all the cargo bikes that people really love. He's a good friend of mine. But I haven't talked to him in 8 years or so.
The second topic I've got is I'm going to have a conference next Friday with the national headquarters of the Business Resiliency, or excuse me, Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. So the topic is specifically around how to do better outreach to businesses about making their own preparedness plans. And so it's a program, it's called Easy Business Continuity. It's online forums where, and we've talked about this in the past a couple times, where businesses just go in and they write who their contacts are and what their operations are and how they would do money and if the banks weren't open. And I just want to talk with her about, you know, how do you get the attention of businesses? And this will be post-COVID because nothing's happening during COVID, but it was just nice to get an introduction to these folks and be able to talk to them. So if anybody has a particular interest in business and business resiliency, let me know and I'll include you in that phone call. Otherwise, I'll see where it goes and then come back with more. Anybody want to cough? I see Susan's
Cindy,
on mute.
this is Frank. When do you plan to do that phone call?
It's next Friday at 10 our time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Ann?
Yeah. Put me down for that, Cindy. That sounds very interesting.
Even if you just listen in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might not be able to make the listening in, but I would think that the chambers of commerce might be really interested in that.
Well, that's what I'm going to talk to her, you know, like how do they get the word out? Why does nobody in Seattle know about this program? So, okay. So Ann, I will include.
Yeah, CC me on that. Just the results of whatever you put out about that, just in case I couldn't make that call, because that doesn't look like a good time for me Friday morning.
All right.
You know, Cindy, there is a document online at the Office of Emergency Management for businesses to develop a plan.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, all the tools are there. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the developers of the tools. I want to ask her about where are you finding people using your tool and what's motivating them to do it? You know, I'm looking for that outreach strategy.
Tell them a hurricane's coming.
Yeah. Well, you know, we had this earthquake in Alaska the other day, and I'm like, I get all excited because I think people will get hits on the, you know, email or hits on the website. And that one was just like went right over people's head because there's so much other stuff going on. We needed a like 2-inch tsunami, and that would have made a difference.
It wasn't something that was personal, I know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah.
It's Kayla. I'm not sure what this person's going to tell you, but one of the ways I can think of off the top of my head of possibly engaging folks is there's a group called Seattle Execs. That's all small business owners. And there's something like 300 members from the Seattle area. And they do various things. Like I know one of the people, I mean, there's physicians, offices, there's telecom, all, you know, it's just, they have different classifications, but that might be a group that you could approach if you're really wanting to get more into the business continuity side.
Okay. I know I've gone and spoken to chambers, and I've partnered with a guy to set up brown bags just to do a like, hey, come in and eat lunch and we'll get you as far as an hour. We'll get you, you know, actual hands-on, put their pencil down and make it work, and you'll get 3 people show up. So
yeah, this is a, I mean, it would have to be post-COVID, but this is a like paying membership group that meets every Wednesday from like 10 to 12. They have lunch at like some swanky athletic center downtown. I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
And
no, I know it's the same as chambers. Their membership, they pay. You'd think they'd be interested, but we've written it down. So I'll
Yeah.
go look them up, and if I can't find them, I'll come back and.
okay, yeah, I've been to one of their meetings. I mean, they fill the room every week. So
Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind when I'm talking to the lady, because you know maybe she'll offer to be a guest speaker or something. So, and then the last thing, I'm looking for a volunteer. And so Anne's my partner on that one. And then the last one I'm looking for is, we had written down that we were going to put psychological first aid off until the fall because we were hoping things would be good. Ain't no way. So I had talked to someone at Red Cross who had done psychological first aid as a virtual session. And then, so she had some tips, but she was doing it for groups of 4 to 6. And then Ren has, you know, they came out with a psychological resiliency in the time of COVID, and he's been doing it virtually. So I'm going to circle back to him and say, how big are the groups? How is it going? How do you do the exercises? And if it sounds easy, I'd like to have a partner to, you know, pull that off as a virtual session. And if it doesn't sound easy, we're just not going to do it this year unless someone really wants to do it, because it just, that was a really super interesting session, and it meant a lot to be in person, to be able to talk to each other and do the exercises and have that conversation with Ren, because he really brought that topic to life. And I just am having a hard time visualizing that as a successful, I mean, I can see it's good for people who are in the middle of it and they need it, and by God, we're going to give it to you virtually. But for our audience who is just learning it as a future, maybe we'll use it, it just has a different impact. So is there anybody who would like to pursue that one with me? I'm seeing no grunts, no hands. So I'll talk to Ren and find out what's going on. So that's all I had. We got a half an hour left for around the room stuff. So let's start in reverse this time, because I always start in the northwest sector because that's just Cindy's reading. Let's start in the southeast sector, and it is not what you've gotten done. It's more like what's on your mind. So southeast sector, anybody got anything you want to do? And second thing is, if you live in the southeast sector and you joined in after introductions, jump in and at least introduce yourself. Susan?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if Jim's still here yet from El Centro, but we're very excited because we're talking with El Centro de la Raza on North Beacon Hill about starting an emergency hub there, which would just be great because they reach out, they have a lot of outreach, they affect a lot of people, not only in our geographical community, but throughout the city and throughout the area. So that's very exciting for us. We're just starting. Cindy and Ron Angeles and I have met and are planning some future meetings and getting things started there. So like I said, I don't know if Jim's here anymore.
Actually, I am still here, but
There you
I'll just real quickly, I want to thank you all for the information. I think I'm going to bow out now, but looking forward to participating. We're still discussing it. I don't know, those of you who are familiar with the El Centro, it's up on Beacon Hill, right across the street from the light rail station. We've got about 300 family members in low-income housing. We have a child care center that serves another 300 children and families. And we also have a child care center in Hirabayashi Place in the International District. And we have a satellite facility in Federal Way. And are really focusing some efforts on getting prepared for emergency. So I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing. and look forward to working with you.
Thanks for joining.
Have a great evening.
Yep.
Thank you, Jim.
You got anything else to add then, Susan?
Oh, as far as what is going on, just trying to get out information on COVID and whatever else is going on in the world and how to get ready for whatever emergency of the many that are occurring.
Emergency du jour.
Emergency du jour, and we're very close to the CHOP in my neighborhood, and we're very close to the International District, and it's one thing after another that people are concerned about. So, yeah.
Anybody else from the Southeast? Southwest. I don't think I have anything on my mind about what's going on other than I need to get going on getting a co-captain for our Morgan hub. But Erica, Kyla, anybody else got something from Southwest? Anything on your mind?
For HPIC, I'd say what's on my mind is only the fact that I'm going to take people up on their offer for putting in that application, get a hub in a box. We need, or
yeah, don't call it hub in a box because they will get confused.
Okay, or get monies to buy a box.
Yeah.
To put our hub materials into. Because we are in desperate need of that. That's been on my radar ever since I started. So yeah, anything anybody wants to offer me, send me anything, I will take, because that apparently is going to be what I'm going to be doing the next month.
Kayla or John, and Johnny Schmidt was on for a little while. I don't know if he's still there.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Anything on your mind?
I've finally taken the time to go out and get the landscape of the neighborhood, now that I'm like avoiding large spaces or, spaces where there's people. And, but yeah, other than that, just trying to keep things together. I'm in that similar situation where I was really considering the in-person events to bring up interest in High Point, and then COVID happened. So just really contemplating on, what I might be able to do depending on how long this is going to last.
And Johnny is with the High Point Hub. All right. Anything else from Southwest or Southeast? Sorry, Southwest. Southwest. See, I did it backwards. Central East.
Well, it occurred to me that an earthquake right now could be described as an incident within an incident. So how do we run a hub when you have to COVID it and you have to interview somebody, you have to do all this stuff, and normally we set up 3 canopies given the weather up here and everything, and then we had a conversation today on our daily 1,300-hour Miqua Zoom meeting, the concept of the double bucket for the actual hygiene at a hub that you set up. So there's a whole bunch of questions that are coming out that we're sort of cranking through, and our radio guys are doing a really interesting job working over just talking about the way to record message flow. And I think there's going to be a conversation with Carl and some other folks down the road on that. Tracing a message from its origin at Central West Magnolia into the EOC and back. And we've been there, I know, a number of times over the years, but it's the continuing questions. But yeah, but an incident within an incident, what do you do? How do you make it work?
I've been sitting in on a couple, there's been multiple webinars, like Kayla sent us, the Caribbean Nations was doing one, and they have, everybody is expanding their space in shelters. Everybody is saying mandatory masks. Anne's distributing masks to us to put in our hubs for next time. Hadn't gotten to this, the everybody bring your own bucket, because of the potential for contamination during that. So yeah, we kind of
new version of BYOB.
Bring your own bucket. BYOPP. So we know we're going to have to update the hub manual when the city has said they'll do some after action. So we're going to capture those lessons learned in how to do a response. and put them into our Hub Captain book. So anything you're finding, Frank, start jotting notes because we'll be compiling all that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we decided, was to take the one that we worked up, and Bill could speak to this if he wants, because he put it together, the Hub Ops manual that we worked up, and then the one that you and Ann and everybody else worked up, and see the points of concurrence, and to see what we can take from yours that we wish we had seen earlier, things like that. So Bill, anything on your end?
There we go. Yeah, just a few things. Like I said, we're the MICWA group. We're overhauling our manuals, sort of incorporating what Ann Forrest came up with. We're also comparing and contrasting and upgrading our inventories of our hub boxes, and we're also starting to put together an idea of what we call a hub to go box. And that is like just a single tub that has as much possible in there for someone to carry someplace else and start another hub on the fly, you know. But it's just in the very beginning stages of developing that idea. Other than that, MICWA has a new website that we put together a couple months ago. So if you want more about MICWA, that's Magnolia Interbay Queen Anne, check out the website.
Frank, I don't know that everybody knows you're working with the Magnolia Manor people.
Frank, you're muted.
You're muted, Frank.
Frank, can't hear you.
I'm not a tech person, guys. Do you have me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Mark Shepard ran into a firefighter up there who's a P-patch guy. And I met with 5 of them a week ago. And Cindy's been kind enough to forward some information, and we're going to get together again with them. We invited them to sit in on our second Thursday MICWA Zoom. We've had some people come in, get their questions answered. And they're interested, and they're going to sit back among themselves and see, do we want to get involved in this? It could be pretty interesting because it's a good location in Magnolia. It's got good radio, and there's a lot of condos and apartments off the north slope of Magnolia. So it's pretty population dense up there, although it may not seem so, but it is. So
they are a P-patch location. Right. And one of the emails that just has gone by this week was, we've had a guy studying us. I don't know if you've noticed, he was in our deep dive and he's sitting in a couple of meetings. He's a UW student studying us as part of resiliency or something. Anyway, he was listening to the deep dive, and a couple of days after that, he sent an email and he said, hey, you know, you have these locations that are P-patches, and don't they have water spigots, and couldn't they be a water distribution point as well? I was like, oh my God, what a great question. So we've sent that question to Julie with the P-patches to say, is this something we can incorporate into our thinking of our neighborhoods, that all these P-patches, even if they never stood up as a functional hub, you know, at least they could be a water distribution point. So it's kind of like all these different little twining things connect up. So right. And they sounded like they were interested, Frank. I bet that they're going to become a hub for you.
Well, we'll see. Mark also gave Jeremy the names of a number of the hams in Magnolia who are really interested, and I'll have to see if Jeremy's interested in getting a license. In fact, I was wondering, the actual ham tech classes now, are they being done via Zoom? Because I know there was a conversation on testing.
There was an email that just, oh, go ahead, Carl.
Oh, you can probably cover it, Cindy. They're doing testing 2 different ways. There are some online testing opportunities now, and there's also, and I think Cindy was going to mention, some drive-in testing where you stay in your car, but you can, you know, they've set up testing through, I think Mike and Key did that. Yep. So there are opportunities to take tests. I don't know if Mike and Key is, or anybody else is doing online classes at the moment. We could check on that, but you can do you can get all of the material to study yourself online. There's a wealth of information. So if you're interested in getting a new amateur radio license, a technician license is the entry-level license, all the material to do that, to learn to take the test, if you will,
Right.
is available online, including the actual test questions. It's just 35 out of a pool of 500. So you just study the test questions and take online practice tests until you're consistently doing better than 70%, and then find a test and poof, you're a ham.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
Okay, anybody else in the southeast or southwest sectors, or central east, central west sector, the middle belt?
I always have to ask, is Belltown Central West?
Yes, you're central west, as far as I can still tell.
Okay. I was going to say the same thing that Frank said, is just as far as what's been on my mind is just thinking about the next event that may occur. So I've been thinking about that, and being a hub captain, I'm sure everybody or most of you are also thinking about it a lot. I just you wonder, what if the internet goes down? What if there's a terrorist attack? I don't know if it's just me. I'd be curious if others are having similar thoughts of just thinking it might happen. Hearing all this.
I'm not thinking about it at all, because it would just be, I think I'll just solve that problem when it comes to, it.
Well, that's good.
Seriously, it does float in and out, but well, we watched the earthquake in Czechoslovakia right when COVID was in its first, out. And I keep meaning to go back and follow up and see if there was some spike afterwards, but I'm not hearing that Czechoslovakia was really tremendously affected, the one city.
Right. So that's what's on my mind. It's not all the time. You don't need to worry about me. I just thought I'd mention that.
That sounds like one of those things that you don't want to start thinking about when you go to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the things about an earthquake is you really can't push it out and spin it as a hoax.
Exactly.
All right, so northeast. Now, Louise, I muted you. I don't know if you had unmuted to get ready to speak, but if you're going to talk, you need to unmute.
I think I have the same reservations as everybody else. I was just told this word called doom scrolling. Have y'all heard of that?
No.
And the anxiety voice tonight and the concerns about tone deaf and the issues of school and election in the fall. We're trying to bring an opening of the hub to our community. And just every day, I think it's less wise and less wise to do anything, because I think people are kind of at the very top of hearing anything disastrous. And here we're saying, let's celebrate how to deal with an earthquake. So, and when I heard doom scrolling, I thought that's what we're doing. That's what you're all talking about. So
say it again slower. What was it? Doom's what?
Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
And that's when you read the paper, the headlines of the paper, and then you're depressed for 2 days, and you read the picture, and that's all you read, but you're depressed for a week. So, so we are trying to do a hub open house in some form, and I'm kind of thinking we might not even do anything. I just think it's insensitive and tone deaf. So,
I actually think that with the handbooks that we just got out to everybody, the practices we've done, unless you're a brand new hub and hadn't seen any of this, most of us could stand up and at least bring order and sanity and start. We've all said humans are going to do this anyway, whether they're trained or not. So we just go in and we go, well, where are we? And we're in phase 2. So everybody's 6 feet apart, and, sanitize every time you touch someone, and then do the stuff you've learned how to do. So that's why I don't worry about it. I'm just going to show up and do the best I can, and that's all anybody can ask of anybody.
but one thing we have invited the neighbors to do is to go through their boxes, check for current, check for kids' school sizes, make sure you've got your chocolates, your wine, and your book. And we're doing that as the hub as well as reorging, thanks to all the beautiful information you all have brought to us, reorging and making it more functional and contemporary. So thank you for that. It's wonderful.
You know, that's a good point, Louise. I mean, my house is so tidied up, you know, because I was home so long with not much to do. And that's, you know, kind of like, well, the survey, if you guys saw the survey that Office of Emergency Management sent out, it was along the same way. What did you do to prepare? What did you do? Did you do different around COVID? And we can just pick it up and go, hey, if you, now that the commodities are, we're not hoarding toilet paper anymore and you can buy hand sanitizer, what can you put away now, or what are you thinking that you would do different to get you through the next 2 years, you know? So it is all, like also Frank said, it's going to be part of that incorporation of messaging.
Yeah.
Anybody else from Northeast? Got several of you in there. All right.
Real quick, this is Ann. Nothing with my personal hub, but University Heights P-Patch, we're getting together on Sunday for a virtual meeting. So we'll see how that goes. And then still working on the video, that whole hub opening thing I did. I didn't get it recorded soon enough, so I made a video with my friend, and I'm still kind of working on that because it didn't turn out great. I wasn't super prepared when we did it the first time, so I need to go back and do some pieces over.
There was a comment, there was an email today, Ann, that somebody wanted to view that and it was marked private.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. That's us, Ann.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that
we've tried to look at it and it
okay.
needs password.
I'll go in and I'll mark them public.
Yeah. All right, in the Northwest.
Well, I can make a few comments, mostly from ACS as opposed to Northwest Hubs. I haven't spoken with Dale for some time, so I need to check on him and see how he's doing. I noticed he doesn't show up in Zoom, so. But Broadview still got its, you know, core group of volunteers, about a half a dozen, who can set up a hub and run it if they had to. But from an ACS perspective, a couple of things. First, when COVID hit in roughly early March, when the city shut down, we had about 10 applicants who were in process, and that process just had the brakes slammed to it. So people trying to join ACS or do other volunteer work with the city haven't been able to actually get processed in as volunteers since the beginning of March. And just a couple of days ago, Carrie Brazel at OEM, who's the volunteer coordinator, has come to an arrangement with SPD Human Relations as to how they can resume processing on an interim basis without the fingerprint requirement, which is the person-to-person problem challenge. So they're going to start processing applicants again and getting that process moving, which I think is a wonderful thing. We can finally get these people who have expressed an interest on board officially. We've been including them, you know, as guests, but now we can bring them on board officially and start soliciting applications again and processing them. So that's one very positive thing. Matt did not mention it, but just in case nobody's heard yet, OEM is most likely going to be leaving the Seattle Police Department. We don't know where they're going to land. They may become a department of their own. They may combine with 2 or 3 other entities to become a new department of various services. Included among the people most likely to leave the police department also are the dispatchers, the 911 dispatchers. So the SPD dispatchers at the West Precinct and the fire dispatchers at upstairs above the EOC could be totally reorganized and put into some part of this potential new department or division of the city that OEM might also land under. So that's all in flux right now. We don't know what's going to happen. I think what everybody does know almost with absolute certainty is the budgets are extremely tight and they're going to become extremely tighter. So don't look for a whole lot of support from the city for anything. I'm surprised to hear that there's even a possibility for grant money right now. That's good news. I hope it comes through. But almost every position is frozen. They can't hire You know, they can't fill vacancies, they can't create new positions, and only on an exception basis can they get a permission to hire. So, and that's citywide, not just OEM, but OEM was a staff of 13 people. They're down to 11 now. They had an open director position, which is still open. They stopped the acquisition process when COVID hit. And Laurel Nelson, who is the deputy director, has been the acting director ever since. She's been doing a fabulous job. Who knows when they'll actually open the onboarding process again and get a new director in. But so there are changes imminent in OEM going forward, and we don't know at this point in time what that impact might be as far as their relationship with the hubs or the relationship with ACS or anything else. It's all in flux, and so patience is the key word when addressing these things. ACS has been doing monthly meetings via Zoom and been doing periodic exercises via Zoom and radio, of course. And we're trying to keep our members interested and engaged to the best we can. So same as you are with, you know, virtual meetings. Any questions with regard to ACS? I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Questions for Carl? Okay, thank you, Carl. Anybody else from the Northwest sector?
Jim, I guess I'll talk for the Finney. Yep, nodding head. We had a communication from our the guy Tim Smith, who's offered to do our radio for the Finney Hub, and he said he had contacted a guy, ham operator near him, Tom Richardson. So that's nice. We've got you know, 2 people, and yep, they're working together. He had Tom had worked with the guy that was previously the captain for the Finney Hub with David Baum, and so you know, he knows about the hubs, and both of them are ACS as far as I know, and so yeah, I like that. That he contacted me unrequested and kept me up to date on what's going on. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Excellent, that's great. I got excited because
yeah,
there's a guy named Tom Richardson who's a battalion chief, and I thought, oh no, that can't be the same person.
No,
it would be highly unlikely.
No, Thomas.
Yeah, very cool. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Darren, I see you've joined us. Darren's with Gilman Park Hub. Yeah. Anything?
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. No, I don't have anything to add. Just trying to multitask here tonight, listening and working on other stuff.
All right. Anybody else across the city who might want to come in last? Okay, we'll get out a little early. I do want to let people know, I found out that everybody can save the chat. If there's any websites in here that you wanted to preserve, you just, you know, you go to the chat window, and down where you would be typing your message, there's 3 dots. And if you click on those 3 dots, you should get save chat, and it will just save it to somewhere in your computer, and then you got to go find it. I think it creates a Zoom folder. So I'm going to keep the meeting open for a little bit for those people who want to experiment. But when I see everybody gone, I'll be gone. And thank you guys for, you know, tuning in tonight. I know we're not going to meet in August. Our next regular one will be September. So we'll be doing a lot of communications in between about some of the activities we've got going on. Most importantly, or most near timely, is the Hub in the Box and grant information, and then our fundraising program. So thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
One final real quick comment.
Cindy. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, there's some people with additional comments. So Carl, and then John.
I'm picking those flyers up from the EOC Saturday morning. So if anybody in the North End is interested in them, get a hold of me and we can arrange how to distribute them out. Just a way to get them out of the EOC physically and out to the north end of the city is I'm couriering.
Great. Who else kind of said, oh yeah.
Oh,
John.
Okay. So something to look into, Google is doing something really interesting with their rollout of a chat system similar to Zoom, but from what I understand, it's going to integrate with Google Docs, Sheets. So it's something in the next 2 months to look at, Cindy, because it literally will be rolled into Gmail. All the info people are saying this is going to be a game changer. So that might be an interesting thing for meetings, as far as being able to present documents like we do here, because it's supposed to be a more seamless video conferencing, email, and document sharing system, work grouping. Okay. So it might be worth taking a look in the next 2 months. It's supposed to be rolling out into your Gmail client in a week.
Oh God. Jesus.
So you just you Gmail everybody, and then automatically it goes into their calendar, and automatically they have access to all your Google Docs that are shared with the group that's on the meeting.
How does that work for people who use Outlook as a client?
No, but Gmail's accounts are free. So Hubcap, wherever it, it's,
well, no, I know that, but I mean, I send emails, I send meeting notices out from Outlook, and people who have iPads can't open them, or
Oh yeah, well yeah, Outlook's a problem with everything. I just got a Hotmail account frozen in Outlook because they said Hotmail is not trusted by Outlook, which is right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have 3 501c3s. We all run Google groups, and everything works seamlessly with them.
Yeah.
But there's supposed to be, anyway, it's something to look.
Thanks for the heads up.
It's supposed to be a really big internet working, work grouping, video conferencing game changer. And
Does it need to be within a G Suite environment?
no, anyone who is invited into the group. So the person who's at the head of it may be in a G Suite. I'm not sure, but if you have a Gmail account, you're going to have a new tab in the Gmail web browser, and it says Start Meeting. And when you start a meeting, it also connects you in all of your Google Docs. It's like a low end Google Suite.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. It's just something to look at. I've read some reviews of it, and I'm a real pro Google person, but this seems like it's going to be like, they had a thing called Google Wave a long time ago, but people weren't ready for it. And it sounds like what they're doing is bringing that back, because that's what everybody wants now. So
okay. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Otherwise, have a nice evening.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks all. Good night.
Thanks, Cindy.
Last time I finished a meeting, I forgot to save the chat, and fortunately somebody else had saved it for me. That's how I found out other people could do it. Gabrielle, do you need me to send you the chat, or are you going to save it?
Well, I saved it, Cindy.
Well, I saved it already too, but
Cool.
I usually it was another meeting, a big meeting I forgot to save it to. Okay, I'm saving it so, I can look at and insert any links if you didn't get them. So, okay, thanks you guys.
Don't forget to connect me with Ann as soon as possible. I don't think I have her number.
You're on my list.
Cool, thank you.
All right.